Okay. Hello. I think it's going through. I think everything's working fine. Ashi, what's going on? I've been wanting to do this stream since last chapter, and I procrastinated it enough till the point where the news chapter is tomorrow. So I want to get this one done and go over exactly. I mean, pretty much the whole question around like the whole Lucy's arm being gone thing, or at least I guess getting chopped off. It's not like it was erased or something. Because I mean, if it's like gone, there's a difference where it's like cut off can still be reattached. Um, I like there's so many things around like the chapter itself that is interesting, up and coming. But for me, the largest like attention drawer is the whole thing with Lucy's arm, because at first I was like, okay, well maybe it's something with Gemini, like it's a fake, and then it's like, well, no, because of like the angle that it was, like where her arm is, the fact that it's her right arm, but it's like showing as from on the like the way that it's showing, it would be like if she was it like if it was her left arm, like she was facing the opposite direction. So just like it's clear that at least from an angular standpoint, that it would have to be severed. Um, There'd be like it would be so weird for it to be Gemini, but then it's like if it was Gemini, then it's like, well, okay, well it's just gonna heal. But then it's like, why is there blood? There was stuff around it that made me just kind of like unsure of it being anything other than like either for sure or like if it's some sort of illusion. I don't really want it to be. What's going on there, Ray Son? I don't know if I've seen you in my streams before. How's it going, Jason Bornot? How are you? But I was gonna say, um, the thing right now with her arm, like I don't want it to be anything where it's like an illusion. I don't really like that, unless it's done. I don't know, because it's like the problem with it being an illusion is like if it was at the start, like she hypnotized, did some hypnosis thing on Lucy, I'd say okay. But it's like we know that she wanted to actually like cut Lucy down, so I would assume that she would actually be using like larger scale attacks. And it was a newer attack that we haven't seen, and it was against one of Lucy's like larger forms, so I would assume it's a much more like powerful offensive move just by the naming, the nature, context. But I mean, if it's some form of illusion, like it'll depend. Like if it's something that is worked through immediately, okay. But like it has to be like a full focus chapter then, where it's like only Lucy versus Carrie, nothing else. And it's kind of like what happened with Wendy, like during the start of the Hades fight, where it's like it was like an ending of a chapter plot point, but like it was very quickly resolved immediately afterwards. If it's something like that, okay, I don't want it to be like that. It's not. It wouldn't like ruin the fight for me. It would just take off the thing for me that I have the most interest in, at least what's shown. Is I would prefer if Lucy lost an arm, and even if she got it back, I'd be fine with that. I would just like to see her without an arm for a little bit, because I think it'd be really interesting to see how the story handles her with one arm. I think that would be a really intriguing way. Like not only character interactions, like other characters' responses to it. Obviously, Natsu's being the biggest one, but like how would Lucy compensate like magic, and like how would she pick herself up during this if she's missing an arm? If she just gets it, like if she gets it healed, like say like Laxus cauterizes out the flesh on the outside, Wendy heals it, so it's fine. I'm fine with that. I'd be okay with that as long as she spends a little bit with one arm, or at least the rest of the fight. If she just spent the rest of the fight with one arm, and then near the end, Wendy was like gonna heal her and stuff, I'd be okay with that. That to me is like my kind of like bare minimum wish list for it. It's like be off, and then kind of like finish the fight with it off. It doesn't have to be for the entirety of like the arc. I'd be stoked if it was, or if like Mishima wants to do this permanently. Because like a missing limb is different than like killing a character. A missing limb can literally just be like replaced with a prosthetic of some sort, whether it be magical, mechanical, or whatever. And it's something Mishima has done before. Like cutting off a character's limb is not something like beyond the realm of possibilities. Like killing a character off is obviously like it has to have like the build up where it's like, okay, well it seems a little fishy. If it's something that is built up and designed for him to be killed off, okay. But it's completely different obviously than versus like, do you think he's willing to cut off a limb? Yeah, of course. Like, I don't think he's gonna kill off any of the main cast, but I think he'd be willing to have one of them lose a limb? Yes. Or get some like super crazy like visual scar, like if Urza had some big scar across her face or something. That's the only thing I could really kind of say if like in that same kind of category where it's like permanent, it's like visual permanent damage, but it's obviously not nearly the same as like ending a character's like ongoing existence. Rex looked online and it said E&D is not just Dark Person. No, it's a whole different thing. What's up, bud? How are you doing? Maybe Gemini got arm cut off. The problem with like Gemini having her arm cut off, or I guess because like Gemini is like two spiritual creatures, non-gendered thingies, but like they like it wouldn't make sense because that would be Lucy's opposing arm, but it's like Lucy's right arm would have to, like, if the way that it's angled, either Gemini would have to be standing in front, or Gemini would have to be on the side and like reaching over, but like her hand, I guess in Lucy's state it would be her, whatever. Gemini's hand would be like flipped around. It's there's a lot of weirdness for it to be Gemini, and why I think it might actually be like Lucy getting her arm cut off. Jason, thank you for the $2 super chat. Rex versus Quan pillow fight, who wins? Well, Quan has short arms, so he's gonna have bad reach. So I have confidence that Quan's shorter limbs might throw him the match. So Rax has else. I haven't moved yet. I'm moving in like 2 weeks. I got to get some of like I'm gonna start on some of my Dragon Slayer videos over these next couple days and get it so they're gonna be prepped up and ready to go out while those days that I'm on the road moving and doing shit. Gotcha Kuda is going to be hyped this week. Gotcha Kuda. I don't know what that is. I don't know if I've read... Oh, is that new series? I haven't read it yet. Vermilion family as a whole are bums. Yeah, I mean, Marileona's looking pretty good. Marileona's actually looking pretty good, like, constantly getting back up. Like, obviously she's taking damage and she's... Not this whole point where it's like you reach your limits, so she kind of had to get into a spot where they had to write her out. But, like, outside of that, I mean, she's actually been doing pretty good. Like, I like Marileona, and I clowned on Marileona a little bit because, like, she got kind of shafted in the arc, like, just fighting a fodder ancient demon for a while. And then, like, she came back and actually did some impressive stuff, so I was pretty happy about that. How am I doing? I'm doing pretty alright. Marileona pretty soon graded for thinking she was, and trying to use too much mana. I want to know what Tabata has planned for that. Like, the whole, like, human limitations of mana, is that going to be just a one of those one-time things? Is this something that characters are going to have to deal with all the time when we get to endgame? Or, like, what's going to be the whole grasp on that concept? With this whole idea that there's a human limitation to how much mana they can really have? Because then it's like, well, obviously, if this is a thing, then, one, it's something that should apply to all humans, and two, it's something that now Marileona is going to have to deal with. She's going to have to obviously overcome this. She's going to have to figure out a way to advance her ability to use mana beyond what normal humans can. Maybe she'll go train with the elves, train with Edo or something. Shouldn't be simple for Williams manipulating the entire squad. I agree. I 100% agree. I think though, like he's aware though of like World Tree magic and dark magic, but also how strong William and Yami are. So like combining both of their abilities and their magic, I think he's got a good grasp right here. Because like the thing also that I would definitely kind of give a little bit of fairness for is like they've already seen Asta try with Devil Union to do anything to Lucifaro, and the only one who's really done anything is Yami. Asta had a little horn cut, but you actually got somewhat of damage from Yami with the little clover bruise. So I would assume that, like, if Yuna's being for real, Yuna's thinking about this logically, even though obviously Asta's his rival and stuff, if we're in a scenario where it's like Asta, you've seen that Asta might not be up to snuff, at least in this situation, but you've seen that Yami with William's sword combined has potential as well. I think that's kind of fair. I mean, they're not in a situation where it's like, yeah, I'm gonna just because it's my rival, I'm gonna go for my rival. Like he's got to look for like the thing that's gonna give him the best solution to the scenario they're in. Tamari X Larcade? I don't know about that one. I've never even heard people attempt to make that idea of a ship. How do you even get that? Maybe Lucy can be used as illusion for using Leon Main. See, people have said that too because it's a light base, but it's like we never have seen illusion based things from from Leo or that Stardress before. So, but at the same time, it's like, well, why would she have a why would she have a illusion? What's the point of that? Like, what exactly is she planning to do? I don't know, like the whole illusion thing people have bounced off for the last 2 weeks, but I just don't really like the idea. I'd be fine if like if Lucy did some form of intentional distraction, but I kind of don't want that. I really like more of the idea of the arm cut off, because it's like if Lucy's doing an illusion, then Kiria only had the upper hand for a moment, and then it's like, okay, well, Lucy's back in control. Whereas like if the arm's off, Kiria is clearly the one, at least at that point, leading the fight, and Lucy would have to actually put in more work to do it. Like it's those two things are, can lead to the difference of Lucy having potentially her best fight in the series versus like Lucy just kind of steamrolling Kiria. Because I assume if Lucy just kind of like runs over this attack too, and it's like, oh, I is able to casually kind of put her in illusion, then like Kiria's hype that she gained over this last chapter will very quickly be like, I mean, it'll pretty much be trimmed back down to where she was before. A little bit higher, because of the whole thing of like being able to actually hypnotize Laxus. That's something impressive. But outside of that, I really do think that she deserves the whole arm cut off, and like the illusion thing, I just don't really think it'd be that hype to be an illusion. It'd be like, oh, okay, cool. But it's like, I don't think it would add to the kind of like big hype of this fight if it's just like, oh yeah, she got an arm cut off, or it's an illusion, versus like she got an arm cut off, or it's like you could easily have her arm cut off and have it so she's not just gonna bleed out next chapter, or maybe so she can still fight. I think there's a lot of really interesting stuff that can like really come forward from that, and that is also one of the reasons that I've had so much interest in the arm chop, because when I read the chapter initially, like I obviously was still hyped about it because it was cool that Kiria was putting up more of a fight than I thought she was gonna put up. But like the arm chop is what like caught me super off guard, and it's not just like, oh cool, a character losing a limb, that's neat. It's because obviously like severe wounds like that can be cool just in the concept of them, but it's like, oh man, where's this gonna go? And on top, because it's not like some random thing that he's just doing. We already know from future Lucy's timeline that like at some point Lucy would lose an arm, so it's like, well, is time going to try and put that back on course? I mean, there's the ship stuff. There's just talking about like Silva's Vermilion. So you think he might make an appearance this arc when he's losing? I mean, we already saw it in we saw it in Elmina, but we probably will in this arc. I have a video up and coming. I'm already a little bit later than I wanted to be with it, so I'll probably just wait until at least after tomorrow's chapter, just in case. I don't think there's going to be anything tomorrow that will break my theory, but we'll see. I still gotta get a Misaki video done, just because like I just have a small idea about Misaki that I want to kind of put out, just as the the kind of potential for her character. And I think we got a little bit more ground now too, with like her being the one that's now fighting hers, I guess. The small twig sword William made is more resistant and relevant than Dorothy Real and Fuego. That's actually really true. I mean, Real did a little bit. Real did some good with his whole Twilight of Valhalla. I mean, the sword is doing better, but I'm like, it's got like it's got William's magic poured into it, and it's being used by Yami. So it's like true, but at the same time, it's like kind of hard not to be true when you can look at like where that comes from. Kiria's more impressive than Scully of Admiral and Haku. I don't agree with that. You got to look at who they're fighting and like look at like the context of it. Haku wasn't even fighting Wendy that seriously, because we know that he wasn't actually trying to hurt her. He wasn't trying to do any like actual severe damage. Scullion and Madmole, I mean, they had to fight Laxus. That wasn't fair. Like, if you look at Kiria and Lucy, it's clear that their characters are relevant to each other. Like, it's kind of hard right now, at least, to gauge who's stronger. I mean, I'm still betting Lucy's going to win in the end, but at least as of right now, we can say they're relevant to each other. Whereas, like, it's not fair for Madmole and Scullion to be going up against, Laxus, somebody who was clearly way more powerful than them. Because then it's just like, well, one is a match between, not equal, but two relatively kind of close characters versus, like, two guys versus one dude who can crush both of them clearly at the same time with no problem. It'd be like, putting Lucy and Gray up against Kirin. It's just like, well, that's not going to go well for them at all. Like, they're just going to have a bad time. And that's just kind of the same thing that's going to happen for those comparative fights. Like, just in their case, it's the Diablos members that got shafted. If Lucy can use her magic to gain an arm of a spirit. I actually had this really cool idea. It's like, what if Lucy had, imagine kind of like an armband, but it held the keys, and it wrapped around, like, her arm stump, and it had each of the keys there, and it kind of made almost kind of like an energy arm, kind of like her whip, but it would pretty much just be probably drawn as, like, kind of like Asta's black arm, but like a little visual effect to make it look all swirly or something kind of neat. And then, like, maybe she could just kind of, like, summon her keys out of that. And she doesn't even have to do the whole key thing. She could just activate it. Because they'd be touching her. So she would just be able... Like, because at that point, yeah, they'd always be touching her. So she would just be able to do it. Kiria put Laxus on his knees. I mean, yeah, but that's because of Hack's thing. How am I doing? I'm doing pretty good, thank you. Do you think we could somehow arcade spells again? I mean... If Nineheart ever gets out of prison, who's Kyria will be stopped by someone, or Kyria turn good for Laxus. I doubt that. I don't see Lucy winning. I mean, I think Lucy's gonna win. I'd be really surprised. And I said at the same time, the same thing when I talked about it after the last chapter, like when it first came out. I will be really surprised if Lucy loses. I don't think Lucy's in a spot where it's like she's out of options. Like, for her bigger stuff, we've only seen Stardress mix her first form. We only know 2, but it's like, it can't be too hard for her to literally just do a new form. Because there's nothing that it's kind of like that crazy outside of like what she's already doing. She already knows how to mix them. She already knows how to do the Stardresses on, every level, every single keys level. Like, she can just do any of her normal gold keys, Stardress, bam. And then... she can do the Stardress mix, so I assume that, like, if she just decided to do, like, Cancer and Aries, it wouldn't be that difficult. It wouldn't be something she'd have to go, like, deeply out of her way to do. Because like, the idea of how they work, it's not, like, inventing something new, like, coming up with Stardresses in the first place. I mean, I guess she kind of, like, she achieved it. She didn't invent it. But say you had her, like, explaining it, I would assume that, like, Stardress Mix is just like, oh yeah, I'm using 2 powers that I already know how to do at the same time. So, like, how much more difficult would be, using Cancer and Aries be other than just like, oh yeah, I went to go use Cancer Dress and Aries Dress at the same time, similar to, like, her other Stardresses. So she can pull out other moves. It's just going to be like, well, one, what is she going to do, in this wounded state? And then on top of that, how is she going to, like, how is she going to kind of, like, formulate a plan going forward? We don't know all of Kyria's moves. Again, I still think, at least as of right now, we can not count Dragon Force, because we know that 5th gen people aren't just going to use their Dragon Force, all fun, like, there has to be reasons because of the severity of it. But... Lucifaro versus Kaido? Oh, Lucifaro. See, the problem with Kaido when you put him against Hacks people is he's just one of those giant meatheads, but because of that, combined with, like, his character inverse and all the stuff around his lore and stuff, he's gonna get bodied by a lot of characters that have hacks that they can just get rid of him. Think of it kind of like, Magna with Soul Chain. It's one of those hacks things that's like, yeah, this gets off, you're done. And the problem with Kaido is, I mean, Soul Chain isn't like, an instant win, but you know what I mean? Where it's just like, it's just such a dangerous thing if it goes off. You can look at other hacks too, I'm sure there's a million other examples. But when you look at, like, how he fights and how easy, like, how quick he is to tank stuff, like, what is he going to do when a singularity is thrown at him? Is he going to try and tank it? That's not going to go well for him. Like, Kaido should scale higher, but another thing also that Lucifaro has is regeneration. You can maybe make an argument for, like, Haki and stuff with Devils, but I mean, like, it's not going to save him again that second that singularity comes his way, because if Kaido doesn't dodge, then Kaido's done just from that, and that's it. And that's just one of those things. Take a character, put, like, whatever crazy hacks. If this other OP dude who otherwise is above them in stats decides to stand there and get hit by this broken ability, they're gonna die. They're done. Clear an illusion, don't waste your time. I don't agree with that. The problem is like, Lucy doesn't use illusion magic. Lucy doesn't have anything with illusions. And Kiria's not gonna do it. Why would Kiria be doing it? We know that Kiria wants to actually, like, kill Lucy. So I don't know. Like, if it is something, again, if it is something like illusion, all I would really want is to have a logical explanation. If it's Kyria doing something sadistic and she's torturing Lucy and Laxus is just confused watching as she thinks she's getting her arm cut off, okay. But all I require is there to be something that I can say like, oh, okay. I just don't want it to be like, oh yeah, her arm, like she just invented a new technique and then that's it. Like Hologram has like some weird illusion failsafe or something. I don't want that. If it's something like Kyria, manipulating some sort of scenario with her hypnosis, okay. But I don't think it's just gonna be Gemini. I don't think it would make sense to be Gemini. One, like the angle it's in, the blood coming out. Blood. I'll say it's blood just based off of the suggestion of the panel. The blood coming out of Lucy's arm, the angle that the arm is in, the way that like physically, I don't think it could be Gemini. Also, I don't think Lucy has the visual face to match if Gemini showed up. It looks like if Lucy literally just got her arm cut off and was like looking at where her arm just was. What Stardress mix you'd really like to see? I mean, I would really like to see something with like Ares is one I would really like because Ares' wool is really underused because it's actually one of Lucy's it's one of Lucy's hacks that nobody really ever talks about because its ability, it's like the fact that it's so soft that it drains your like what is it, like the general thing is like will to fight, your battle prowess or battle spirit. It just makes you not want to fight until you get so comfortable you're just done and you just kind of like lose that way. But maybe like Ares and Scorpio would be cool. I wonder how that would combine. Maybe a giant wool cannon tail, or like I think that like the one that I would really like to see as just like a baseline, just because like why wouldn't you, is Taurus and Cancer, because that's the perfect one I think that she needs for this fight, but she's not using it. Maybe she just hasn't gotten to it yet. Who knows? Mad One's Dolion versus Laxus is like Lucy and Gray versus Kyrian. Man, really respect Gray with this. I mean, no, I mean it's understandably so. Gray is strong, but like there's a clear gap, at least as of right now, between any of the main cast aside from Natsu and the Dark Dragon Slayer Knights. It's very clear that the four of them are much more powerful than the rest of the main cast. The only person that can contend with them is Natsu. And again, you can't count Wendy, because the only reason Wendy won that fight is because Haku was not trying to kill her or do anything severely aggressive. He was pretty much just trying to get her to surrender. Current Lucifer versus Meliodas. I would probably give it to Meliodas, at least as of right now. Lucifer doesn't have enough to really kind of put me in a spot where I would say that he can mess with Meliodas. And on top of that, because we know that devil abilities can hurt devils, like something like Singularity getting full countered, I think would pretty much be done for him. And as far as we know, he doesn't have a counter to that. I mean, he can teleport, but it's like, how many times is he going to be able to really do that before Meliodas catches wise? They should both scale pretty fair, too. Immediately after you start mix spells, Lucy immediately swaps back to Stardress. She was wearing a Legal Virgo. The Yokai should immediately switch back to Aquarius. I mean, yeah, but she was in it had to be in it for at least a good chunk during the Yoko fight. It just wasn't a Lucy-focused fight, so we didn't get to really see too much of it. I mean, she's not going to be in her Stardress mix, though, all day. Back in Drasil, we saw, like, she could use one ability from it, and that's it. It was pretty much like Natsu back when he had Lightning Flame Dragon mode, and now Lucy is able to go in it and use abilities and maybe not stay in there all day, but she's able to go into the form, use an ability, go out, still have magic and stamina to keep fighting, you keep doing stuff, so that's still a plus. Even if it's not like you're doing 10 times what you were the first time you used it for, if you're able to maintain it way better, handle it way better, and just have a general better performance, then that's just an upgrade by itself. On Aries and Taurus, that'd be pretty sweet. One second. I want this one. Maybe it goes back to what Mimi said during the first round of Lucy. I mean, like, Lucy will be fine. The problem right now, when you really compare them, is like Mimi is just fundamentally a different opponent than Kyria. Mimi is way more respectful. She's way more chill. She's not fighting you with nearly as much bloodlust. Like, you know, she's doing mostly like palm thrust, chops, and she has her whole, like, you know, it's the immovable sword. But like that's like all of Kiria's moves. All of Kiria's moves are trying to cut stuff up and chop people in half. Ares Wolves is the only way except Lucy winning against Kiria. I don't agree on that. Stuff like Aqua Storm, like not Aronometria, Leon Maiden, because you have to look at the context at least of what we've seen between Lucy's two forms of Stars Mix. We've seen her Scorpio and Aquarius, and we've seen her Leo and Virgo. And her Leo Virgo one, it's like a wide AOE attack, whereas her Scorpio and Aquarius dress had more concentrated damage, and we saw that from in the same arc. We saw Leon Maiden not able to take out Mira Jane and Elfman, but we saw Mira Jane and Elfman doing nothing to Metro's Golem. Same thing with base Gajo. But like, look at Stardress Mix Lucy's we saw, is where her all Aqua Storm completely destroyed the Golems, and on top of that, her Taurus dress had more physical strength than Gajiel, Gray, base Gray rather, and Mira Jade. So it's like she's not weak in those. It's just Lucy has like these niche things that she can kind of like combo together, and whereas like other people have more well-rounded. Like, it's a magic that kind of like gives you a more like general sense, like a general straightforward rounding of stats, whereas like Lucy's has more kind of like crazy things to unlock. Like when she got to Stardress Mix, that's like where Lucy starts to get really dangerous, because before it's like, yeah, she's got these abilities, but she can only use one at a time, whereas now she's getting to the point where she can use multiple at a time and pick which ones to combine. Is the big danger for like Lucy's upcoming kind of power creep, because of what she can really accomplish. Like I said, Lucy with Taurus and Cancer can essentially become a high-class swordswoman without ever training. Just because of how her abilities works, it would make her automatically like a really physically strong and really skilled swords person. Don't forget to dislike the stream. Why would you do that? My power scaling's good. I just don't have goofy takes. Some people just like to have really horrendous things that ignore context and make absolutely no sense. That's why I'll see like Quan saying things, Mereoleona fighting Laxus and whatnot. Ridiculous. Aries Capricorn starts to be cool. Aries Capricorn would be really cool. Capricorn though, like Capricorn, at least from what we've seen, all he does is give like martial arts abilities. He doesn't give anything really that significant power wise, which is still good, but I don't know. I feel like he has one of the worst ones individually. Because like, what does he really do? But it's like Capricorn is like so under-summoned. I'd be willing to bet if we looked at Lucy's summons, Capricorn has to be her least summoned out of her gold keys. I can't think of any of her gold keys that she's summoned less, to be perfectly honest. Because like, really think about it. Like, she got Caprico in Sirius Island, and she really doesn't like use him at all until the movie, until Dragon Cry. Which is funny because it's 2 movies later, and then in the Mimi fight, there's just not a lot of Caprico action. Mishima just didn't really give him any cool powers. What do you think is the most well-written character in Black Clover? Either Noelle or Finral, probably, right? Or Noct, actually. I'll probably go Noct. Noct's probably the best answer, to be perfectly honest. Probably that's something around that ballpark, though. The video game Capricorn's able to use dark orbs of magic. I mean, that's just a video game thing, though. Because we even see him do stuff with Regulus, like in Ganon. So it's like, why would he be using dark orbs? Saitama Spiritual, how far does he go? See, the problem with someone like Saitama is he has no hacks resistance whatsoever. So, like, if you put him up against Evergreen, Evergreen just talks to him and looks at him, he gets turned to stone. Like, Saitama, the character, it's kind of like the problem with Kaido to a degree, is like characters who are just raw muscle, but have absolutely nothing to deal with hacks in a, like, when you really look at it, when you look at, like, shonen series, like a lot of, like, mainstream shonen, Hack's abilities have becoming way more and more mainstream, like just really weird broken powers. And I don't mean like, obviously, like, you know, stuff in fiction was doing that already, but when you compare how much more basic some of the older series were, and then like some of the stuff now. And then you see like, I mean, Saitama's powerful, but I mean like Saitama at his best is just, you know, punching hard. Versus like, how is that going to do anything to you know, foreign for a character who's like some intangible that can do some crazy hack thing that makes it so he can't do X, Y, or Z. Like someone like Bloodman. How does he fight Bloodman? Because Bloodman doesn't have, like, he just goes intangible. He can do stuff like take away his senses. Like there's just too many kind of like crazy things that he would have to deal with that I think isn't in his verse for a reason. Because like there's not a lot of broken people in One Punch Man, like crazy hacks wise. There's like some stuff, but I don't think there's anything as like prevalently broken as like a lot of these other series that are going right now. Just because like I don't think that one's trying to do that. It's not trying to give you all these crazy JoJo stands and freaking crazy devil magics and lost magics and shrifts, all these like super crazy broken powers. That chapter, Lucy definitely panicked with Kiria coming forward that quickly, so using Leo Virgo. Yeah, that was like the only thing I would say is like Lucy, that was not a good Star Dress pick for her, because it wouldn't have really done anything other than like maybe get some damage on her. Like I would have been like, yeah, I'm not using that one. Like try and set something else up. Maybe try and fix Laxus. Like there's more stuff that she could have done other than that. But I do think like Lucy's not, you know, she's not a perfectly operating machine. So I don't expect her just to, you know, be tagging everything with like zero flaws and zero issues in her setup. I can't wait for the chapter tomorrow. I'm really hyped. Like the first thing I'm gonna be looking for in like when the chapter opens up is what's going on with that arm. Is it off? Is it on? Like if it's not like a large, like if it is some form of illusion or some fake out, I just want to get past it. That's all I would want. Is like chapter opens, like maybe like first page, it's like, you know, just showing stuff. The second page, bam, it's illusion. Lucy's fine. I'd be like, okay, cool. Let's get past it then. That's the only thing to me. I don't want it to be like half the chapter is building on this fake out, because it's like if it's a fake out, then kind of cool. That's fine. You know, do the fake out. But I want it to be a way that is beneficial to the fight, and I think one way that it can do that otherwise would be to, you know, like I said, just get stuff over with. You know, if we're not going to be getting it, then don't be sitting on it too much. I don't need it. What does Gemini Star Dress do? So Gemini can copy the magic and knowledge, pretty much just make a full-scale replica of a person that it touches, equal to or less magic than the summoner. And Lucy's Star Dress Mix essentially would just let her do the exact same thing. So if Lucy was fighting somebody, got Gemini off, and then used her Gemini Star Dress, she would essentially have her opponent, everything her opponent can do, all of their abilities, all intel, all knowledge, twice. And she'd still be able to summon an additional spirit. And she would be able to do probably a Star Dress Mix on top of that. She just got a lot of, like, Lucy's biggest thing is she just has a lot to utilize. Like, Lucy's just got a really big arsenal. Thank you again, Jason, for the $2. What chapter you see Selene dying? I'm hoping that Selene gets one more arc after this. I'm hoping that it's like after this arc, it's like a Selene centered arc, where it's like actually Selene is the big bad and she's going to fall at that. Because I assume Selene is going to die at some point, or at least be defeated. She's a major antagonist, and she's somebody they can't just let hang out. Like, you can't just like leave her alone and just be like, well, she said she was going to be good. Because it's like, no, she's too dangerous. She's too high risk. It's not something that they would want to just to kind of like leave around. So I assume once we get to that point that you know, she'll be killed off. But I don't think that's going to be for at least one more full arc, maybe more. Because Mishima really clearly likes her. She's like was voted third most popular character currently in 100 Years Quest. Like, she beat the only character she lost to are Urza and Lucy. So it's like everybody else, she's more popular than right now. So I don't know why he would possibly want to get rid of her too soon. I will say, like, I'm hoping Mishima doesn't keep her around too long. Like, if he wants to, like, eventually she has to get killed off, I think. Eventually, I think Selene has to get killed off. and has to go, go the ways of Margear into the villain graveyard. But until that happens, I'm hoping that she gets like her full kind of run. But I don't want her to get milked. I don't want her to get to a point where it just feels like they're just using her for, for popularity, and she's like long past her prime, or not prime, but long past her dues, I guess. Not dues. What word am I looking of? Or am I thinking of? Maybe like just long past her value or something. Long past her stay. Overstaying her welcome, I guess, is another easy way to say it. Selene is a wild bitch card. Oh, it's just a wild card. I don't know why I got bitch in there. Yeah, that's always one of the things I've loved about Selene, is Selene can just kind of like change any scenario at any point just by teleporting somebody in and just deciding to do something. And popularity poll, I voted on Kyria. You voted on Kyria. I didn't vote on the popularity poll. I didn't see they were doing one. I would have probably voted Selene pretty high up, but I mean, I guess it would depend on how many votes I had. I'd probably go like Natsu, Jalal, Selene, or something, or like Natsu, Suzaku, Selene. Do you think Godslayer? Do you think Godslayer will get to do something? Probably not. Like Mishima's been very unkind to Godslayers like since the start. I think the strong magic variable is space-time magic. I mean, the strongest magic would be the one magic, because the one magic would pretty much mean that you get to do all of their magics. You would just pretty much have the magic for magics. And at that point, it's just like, nothing can really stop you. Kyria Laxus coat is badass. I do really like the Kyria Laxus coat design. I think it looks really cool. And on top of that, it adds to the ship. I actually like the Laxus and Kyria ship. Like, I think it fits. I think. Oh, sorry, I just spoke. I think it fits entirely. I think it fits really well with Laxus's character, and I like that there's this. You would have this kind of like really headstrong, really aggressive, Dragon Slayer woman who has this kind of like softer girly side only around Laxus, and then you have Laxus, who's this extremely powerful, like 6'5" brick shithouse jacked wizard, and it's like obviously like kind of like on his more emotional side, he's more of he's to a degree a softie. I think that's like a really good combo. I think they mesh really well together, and that's one of the things I think makes works best with their ship, because like I know there's still people that are rooting for Laxus and Mirajane. I've never really been on board with that, just because I don't think their chemistry fits at all. I don't think there's really anything to kind of go off of other than like a couple art panels that Mishima did and like some cover stuff. I think Mercephobia will fight in the show again. I hope so. I really want Mercephobia to return, because like his whole thing with like being stuck in this humanoid form, not having access to magic, like there's so many weird questions around that, because like he's not a human. He's a dragon. He's a dragon using magic to have a form. So if you take away his magic, he would be in his dragon state. Like he would, if you took away any magic-based things, unless it's like he was in his human form and it like gets stuck that way. I think it has to do with some form of sealing or something to do with LF Saria, because that I think just makes the most sense to me. But I would hope that we would see him return and to kind of do something. See, like the problem is like I want him to come back, but I also really want Alderaan to somehow come back. But I know that like that's probably not gonna happen. Like, probably not going to get Alderaan ever again. But maybe. But it's like, if Mishima wanted to bring one of them back, I don't think he can bring both of them back. Just because it would feel weird if all of a sudden, it would feel like a lot of the progress is, like, put into question. I'd guess that, like, Mercephobia coming back is fine. Alderaan doesn't really need to. Like, I think Mishima can improve Alderaan just off of flashbacks. I think we could get Alderaan's character value up just off of, like, say we add, like, a couple flashbacks in the anime. We get a little bit more that just kind of beefs him up a tiny bit. Maybe, again, a flashback scene with Acnologia. Maybe we see him before he became too big. Like, I'm really hoping that Mishima wants to add stuff into the anime with 100 Years Quest. Like, it's mostly stuff like that. It's just stuff that improves onto what we've already got.
because I've really liked 100 Years Quest so far. I think we've gotten a lot of really good content, and I think the only way that we could make it, like, not we, but the only thing that like, we could get something better out of from Machinima is if like they just add small stuff like that. Like if we got this, like the part where they where Mercephobia is like explaining like when he met I'm gonna forget how to pronounce her name, Carmel, his assistant. I've been struggling on her name since she showed up in the series, but it like instead of just saying it, like what if we saw like a short flashback, like just like a minute and a half long flashback instead of just like that panel. I think that would be really cool. Like anything around that. $2 for the super chat from Jason. What's my real name? That's the secret. It's classified information. Also $5. If Fairy Tail had a live action movie, who'd you cast as Natsu, Lucy, Urza, Gray, and the others? I don't want a live action. I don't want a live action movie. I do not want a live action movie whatsoever. I mean, if you did, if I had to do a live action movie and pick people, I mean, I don't really know a lot of like current actors. So like a lot of the younger ones, I would only be able to like remember actors from like older movies. Like I remember like I was looking at some article and it was like some actor from like some newer movie I didn't watch, and it's like at this point, outside of actors I already knew who they are, or if they're in something, or unless they're in something that I already have seen or plan to see, I probably don't know about them. Like, I probably have no idea about their existence or what they do or like what's going on with them. What do you think? What could be a good ability of God's Soul with spatial magic, spatial version of Damari magic? I think a really cool spatial ability. Like, what if you manipulated space? Like, imagine something kind of like, think of something like if you combined Haku's ice. Crap, is it ice prison? I'm trying to remember exactly what his jutsu was. His, the whole ice mirrors. Like, imagine that, but it's like portals, but you can't see them. Like, imagine you have a bunch of invisible portals around a room, so it's like, if you can't memorize where this guy is clearly put his attacks, you're gonna get your footing screwed up just from that. Because that's one thing I think is overlooked a lot in a lot of like battle shonens, is stuff that just by itself causes, like, it's a problem in fighting certain abilities mechanically, and not just of like, oh, it's OP ability, and just like how it operates is a problem. Kind of like how the idea of like fighting someone like, and it's not just Natsu and Gray, but like think of characters like Natsu and Gray, or anybody who's like this really specific elemental person that like, you're putting out heat or cold continuously as you're fighting them, because it's a passive thing at that point. It's a passive level of of power output that you're going to be, pretty much putting out there against your opponent. So I would assume that I would assume that for him, he is. I lost my train of thought. Actually, hang on. I completely lost my train of thought. I was gonna go on like a rant about like what I meant when I was talking about more about fire and ice, but I don't want to do that. I think something like a utility thing like that would be really cool. Like for Yuno's star magic, his shield, whip, and his like beams are kind of eh. His conjunction is clearly his best thing, because it's a huge game changer to how he can fight because of just like an added utility, and an easy way to like give probably the biggest, like I'll give two super easy to understand examples of this. Think of a game where you have jump and then you get double jump. Think of a game where you can dash and then you upgrade it so you can do 2 dashes consecutively. Dash once, then immediately dash again. It just adds a whole extra level of gameplay because it ups your movement, or something about you that is super beneficial at a core design. And I think that there's not a lot of characters really that get a ton of that in Black Clover, at least as of right now. Like I'd say, like imagine if Noelle used like a giant water, like manipulated water on like a massive scale, but it's like just enough to make the so she can do the whole swimming thing, like swimming essentially through the air and like the magic and the mana and stuff. But it's like it essentially speeds it up. Maybe something kind of like that, or maybe she'd be able to collect water as she goes and kind of like pick up power as she's fighting. I don't know. There's stuff like that you could do, but it's like, okay, well, what exactly is the plan going to be? Where things going to fully move? Who knows? But for like their setup, I don't know. I would hope that there'd be something really cool with like this whole idea of of like a spatial guy. So like if you had something kind of like all these crazy utility things that would be not just like, oh, I have to dodge this attack, but it's like, imagine if you had all these spots you had to memorize in a fight to not step on, or you're gonna get teleported to another side of the room where your enemy is gonna, I would assume, have full control and knowledge of where you're gonna get teleported to, so they would just have to prepare to send an attack to where they know you're gonna get teleported off at. Kaido versus Luffy? I mean, they're having a fight right now, and I mean, as of right now, it's still Kaido in a one-on-one. Just because, like, Luffy's doing better, but I think at this point, what Oda really needs to do is he needs to have Luffy and Kaido have one more fight, fully fresh, both sides, neither of them are hurt, neither of them have any wounds, and that's just immediately battle. I think maybe like the best way that he can continue is like if this arc, like we had an like end of this act and open to the next act, and it's just like instead of like act 4 or whatever, it's like final act, and it's just all the characters and they're around some massive coliseum or some big wasteland, and it's Luffy versus Kaido, and Kaido says, I don't give a shit about any of this other stuff right now before we even do anything that has to do with One Piece or the Marines or anything. He's like, you, me, one-on-one, we're gonna fight. I waited for you to get healed, and like they're gonna actually just battle. I think that would be the best way to go about it. But who knows what Oda's got planned? He might have something, schemes similar. Who knows? I don't know exactly what Voon versus Rent are. Chris Hemsworth versus Laxus? I mean, Chris Hemsworth is a person with no powers. I don't care about Merce Phobia as Minion Girl. She gives me a Carla vibe. I don't know about that. Like, early Carla, like, was really annoying. She's not really that bad anymore. She's kind of fine. I don't really have any issues with her. But, like, I remember forgetting Carmel, whatever. She's okay. She just seems a little bit snooty, but she doesn't seem bad. Like, we saw, obviously, interactions with her, and she wasn't really a problem to the members of the main cast. She didn't really do anything that was that much of like a hassle or that much of a calamitous interaction, you know. Kaido wins if both are 100%. See, right now, I'm not 100% sure. I'd say maybe. Like, Luffy actually is looking, Luffy legitimately is looking pretty good in comparison right now. He's shown to be able to keep up to a degree. Now, that's obviously not Kaido at 100%, but that's what I mean. I think Kaido needs to, like, Luffy and Kaido need to fight from 100%. Let's see, anything else? Kirin versus Laxus Part 2. Laxus would win if Wendy was with him. Deuce Corona immune to his atmosphere magic. I don't know if that's going to be the case. Like, that's a resistance thing. That's not a... Like, that would help with something kind of like Natsu's passive heat. That's not going to work on, like, Kirin's, like, atmosphere manipulation. Because that's not, like, a passive kind of a active, more, like, base stat line thing. That has way more to do with, like, his direct manipulation. Because otherwise, like, Wendy would just be able to do that to anybody with elemental abilities, which we know is not the case. I don't know. Yeah, the whole thing right now with... I want to get to... Like, I want to see what Oda has planned. Like, it's not as much as, like, I want to see everything that kind of follows after this part in Wano. I just want to know, like, what is his plan for having this guy interrupt Kaido versus Luffy? Where does Kaido go now? What's Luffy's plan now? Like, Luffy should be unconscious, I would assume. So, I would guess that he's not going to be fighting anymore, at least until he gets healed again. Think we'll see Kagura in 100 Years Quest? I mean, I would assume so. But, like, I don't really know what Kagura would do. I mean, we just get, like, probably, like, hey, it's Mermaid Heel. Bye, Mermaid Heel. That's it. I don't really know what possible reason we would have. I know what Ellis and Jeremiah are saying. It's weird stuff in the chat. Do you think the Celestial Spirits can replace her arm? I mean, maybe. I don't think it's outside of the realm of possibilities. But I do think it's, it's just not guaranteed. But I can see it happening. It would make sense to me. Top 10 curses? Is this just Fairy Tail, or is this, like, curses in general? It's not even that crazy, because, like, Fairy Tail, I mean, it has more than 10 curses, but I know it doesn't have, like, It's not like we have like 50 curses. If I just had to guess, like it'd probably be like 18, 19, 20 or something like that. I just know there's not a lot off the top of my, just off the top of my head. I know there's not a lot. There's a good amount, but it's not like there's, like it's not like they're known for it. Can we just see any necromancer? Most likely Nightheart Hunter. So well, Nightheart isn't a necromancer, sort of. He kind of is, but not really. Because like he's his power only works if they're dead, but he's not resurrecting the dead. He's making like this weird copy of them. I don't know. Because otherwise, like, what is his... Like, what otherwise would be, like, his thing for it? Oh, in general? I don't know. Curses in general? Like, isn't that just, like, at that point, like, across tons of fiction? I don't really know how much it's going to really benefit for the current... Oh, 1 second. Alright, anyway, let's see.
Okay, where's the
Oh,
next
fine.
shot?
Yeah, Lucy needs a hand. What time is right now, actually? It's... For me, it's 2. So then the chapter comes out in, what, 19 hours for me? Need to figure out what's going on with this arm fiasco and see what's gonna... Like, what exactly is Mishima gonna direct this all towards. The arm thing, like... I don't want to go too much into it, like, further, because, like, I have a theory video I really want to do, and I don't want to spoil it. Like, there's one I really want to go over, because I think it all clicks, and I pretty much just need to get to it, because I've about got my time back, so I just need to take a couple minutes to, not take a couple minutes, take a chunk just to lay out what I want to talk about, because I don't really need to do too much. It's mostly just me connecting, like, oh yeah, because of these events, I think this will happen, this makes sense. Please kill Yano? Who's Yano? I don't know who this Yano guy is. But anyway. Yeah. I just wanted to do a quick stream on that. Just a short one. I know I haven't been streaming as much lately, which I want to fix. We are going to do a stream tomorrow on the chapter live reaction as we've been doing. I'm going to do that. And then, you know, I'll get the rest of, like, Doron, Ayashimon, and then I'll have, like, 4 nights needed 0 reviews and everything up tomorrow. But other than that, though, you guys have a good rest of your day. I'm glad I was able to get this, like, short chunk out of time to have a stream, because I wasn't able to do it Saturday, and I wanted to do this Lucy arm stream, and then start getting back towards, like, a more regular schedule. But anyway, other than that, let me see. Do you think Joel will have a bigger role? I do.